Okay, this is a 1975 Fiat 124 Spider, and we are installing one of our reproduction center consoles. First thing you're going to have to do is put the car up on jack stands and loosen up the handbrake cable. You can see this is a cable that goes down the passenger side. This is where it goes over to the driver's side. You're going to loosen up the jam nut, back the adjustment nut back till it hits the jam nut again. You don't have to get it all the way loose, it just needs to be free enough where you can pull the handbrake lever all the way up without being tension on it. Inside the car, you're going to pull the shift boot plate out. Just pop it up with a flathead screwdriver. Pull out the ashtray. There's a 1 Phillips head screw in the floor. You're going to take that out. 1 on each side of the console that goes into the upper console, and then 1 on each side that goes right into the transmission tunnel itself. Once you get it loose, pull the handbrake lever up. Lift the back of the center console up, and you're going to have to finagle with the upper console some. In retrospect, it's probably easier just to take the upper console out. We opted not to do it because the car does have an aftermarket radio in it, and there was some creative wiring done, and I just did not want to mess with that. Also, you've got the wiring for the switch and also the fiber optic lights. Be sure and take those out, and you want to be real careful with them because they are not replaceable. To get it out, you're going to have to put the shift lever all the way back in the rear position. Later on, we're going to actually end up removing the shift lever because it's easier to work with. And once again, in retrospect, take it out. It's a lot easier to work with that way. We got the old console out now. Of course, you want to take this opportunity to clean up as best you can in the car. Here we're going to compare the new console to the old one. You can see the switch location is a little bit different. There's no hole for the light and there's no hole for the ashtray. You're going to have to cut those. The switch relocation is no big deal. The wiring is plenty long to accommodate that. And if you flip it over, you also notice there's no mounting bracket in it. We're going to have to drill out the rivets holding the old bracket in, and we're going to epoxy it into the new one. I'm just using a Dremel tool here with a drill bit attachment to drill the 4 heads of the rivets off. And you're going to have to measure the location of it in the new one and compare it to the old one. The other thing, when you flip it back over, you're going to notice the holes aren't there for the shift boot plate. So you're going to have to drill those, and now I'm going to show you how to put some inserts in it to help hold it in place better. What I'm going to do is take some white out and mark each one of these studs and then place it over the new console, and the white out will indicate the marks where I need to drill the holes at. You see my marks are pretty well clearly marked here. I'm going to use a scratch awl to start the holes with to make sure the drill bit doesn't go off center. These little inserts I just got at a hardware store. The hole in the center is a little bit too small, so I'm going to take a drill bit and drill it out the same size or slightly smaller than what the pins are, and they just snap right into place. Next, I'm going to remove the old shift boot and taking the Dremel tool and just cutting off the head on the rivet. Once it's drilled out, just take a pair of pliers and pull it out. If you do break this ring, we do have replacements. While we're doing the console, we're going to replace the shift boot. The shift boots that we sell are made out of leather versus the original vinyl ones, so they can be a little more difficult to install. You might need an extra set of hands to do this. Once you get the ring in place, just put a 1/8 rivet through it. I'm just using a pair of hobby scissors here to clean up the boot itself. Next, we're going to drill some pilot holes to cut the ashtray hole out. I'm just using a cordless jigsaw here. One thing I'll note here too, I didn't earlier, we didn't have a black console. This is actually a tan console that I used our vinyl paint on. You can see the tan on the inside, but when you flip it over and look at the other side of it, you can't even tell it was ever painted. I'm just using a Dremel tool to clean up the hole a little bit where the ashtray goes in. There is a black metal ring that snaps in first. You bend the tabs over, and then the ashtray should slide right in place. Here we're going to replace the lower shift boot. It's pretty rotten on this car, as you can see. It's not much left to it at all. And this is where I'm going to get into removing the shift lever also in a minute. The shift lever does not remove that easy. It will take some force. So you're going to need the kit to put it back together also. There's 4 Phillips head screws that hold the plate down. Now we're going to install the new console. This will take some finagling, and it may take an extra set of hands. You want to pull the handbrake lever all the way back. There is a lip on the upper console that kind of holds the lower console in place, so you kind of have to match those up and install them all at one time. With the lower console back in place, we're going to slide the upper into place now, and you just want to make sure you get all the wires tucked in. You install the switch by feeding the wires up through the hole. Put the wires back on the switch and just snap it back into place. Put the screws in the side of the upper console. This was going to attach it to the lower. And then put the screws through the lower console into the transmission tunnel. Next, we're going to install the shift lever. Just put the new bushings up in the lever itself and slide it over. We're going to put the shift boot plate into place with the new shift boot and screw the shift knob on. Now I'm going to show you how to install the bracket. You have to make sure everything else is secure and in place. We're going to take this Phillips head screw and screw it down into the floor of the car, into its receiver where it goes, and then we're going to put the epoxy on the bracket itself. You probably want to put some weight on the back of the console so that you get good adhesion. You're going to want to let this sit up overnight. Within 24 hours it should be good and set. Once the glue is dry, just snap the ashtray back in place. Next, you're going to readjust the handbrake lever. You're going to pull it up to the second notch and you just put tension on it. Once you get the adjustment made, tighten the jam nut up and lock it into place.